Good evening, Dr. Gomez, Board Chair, Board Vice Chair, Chris Howitt, all members of the school board, Superintendent James Hugh. We are from the Metro East Web Academy. This is a really important presentation for us, so I brought everyone I could, and here they are, and we are excited to present. I wanted to introduce our crew a minute. First, I'd like to introduce Dr. David Gray. He's up there. He's our executive director. He's retiring at the end of this year, and he's leaving some really big shoes, and we're trying to fill them. The folks here, I'm Dr. Christina Struickbahn. I'm the Associate Executive Director. Beside me is Tanya Gebhardt, Chief Operations Officer. Then we have Julie Noriander. She is the Middle School and High School Associate Principal. Christine Calhoun, Testing Coordinator, TOSA, and everything else. And Natalie Stager, Associate Elementary Principal, as well as the Curriculum Director. And I'd also like to say hi to Michael Harris, who's in the audience supporting us. He is our board chair, and we're super glad he's here tonight. Just to get started a little bit, first slide here does have our mission and our vision. Our mission is to break through barriers in education. That's what we do as an online school, and that's what we feel is what we've been doing for the last 14 years, and will continue to do so moving forward. Just to give you a brief history, I know some of you know our history. We probably have told you multiple times, but I know there are some new members of the board. So I just wanted to do a really brief overview. Our school started in 2009, and it was started by the superintendent of Gresham Barlow School District at that time, John Miner, in conjunction with Michael Harris, sitting in the audience there, and Tim Drilling. And they applied for a grant, and the grant was to start an online charter school with the purpose of re-engaging the unengaged. They had taken a look at their data, and they saw that there were about 500 students in the district, middle school and high school students, who weren't in school, and they needed some options. So we became one of those options, and that started in 2009. We had 75 kids when we started. Currently, we have about 700. So we have grown, and we have become a great option for some kids. We have improved our graduation rates. I will admit that COVID was hard on us too. And like the other schools in the district, we did take a bit of a hit to our graduation rates. But before that, we were steadily increasing. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit. Improved graduation rates for our Latino Hispanic students as well, which is ongoing work for us. Improved college credit attainment and improved CTE attendance and course options. So this is our increased enrollment. As you can see, 2021 was our high point. That was COVID. We had a huge influx of students, as you can well guess. We were ready to go, right? We were online already. So it worked pretty smoothly for us to take in quite a few new students. Right now, we're back to, I would say, pre-pandemic trajectories. We're right at 700 students, which is where we were in 1920. So it feels like, okay, we're kind of over that strange hump and back to normal. If you look at the upper right corner, we've been asked by the board, tell us how we impact Gresham Barlow School District specifically. Those numbers at the top are the students from the Gresham Barlow School District who are enrolled at our school. And it's about half. Typically, about half of our student population is from GBSD. Graduation rates. This is always something that we tackle. This is one of the areas that we are evaluated. And one of the questions that Kristen posed was, yes, your graduation rates have increased. You're still the lowest in the district. We are the lowest in the district, and we know that, and we battle this. If you take a look at the pie chart in the bottom there, this is our 2021 cohort year. The blue, the light blue, those are our grads, right around 47%. The green are our GED completers. They are not counted in our grad rates, but they were within that 4-year window of graduating or completing. And then if you look at the sort of darker gray, these are our non-completers. these are the kids that we struggle with the most. And, we were talking about this when we were going over the board presentation recently. And these are the kids who are coming in from the district, from other school districts. They're saying, I want to try online school for whatever reason, right? They're working full time, they're pregnant and parenting, they're dealing with some anxiety. They come to our school and we throw everything we have at them, right? We have our onboarding process, we have our student success team, our counselors, our advisory team, everything we have, but it doesn't work. And they leave again. And sometimes they leave within a month, right? They take a look at online school and they say, whoa, that's hard. And it's hard. So we have 67 kids within that cohort year that left and didn't go anywhere else. And this is where our heartburn is, because we couldn't hook them and then they didn't land anywhere else. And this is an ongoing issue that we tackle every year. If you look at the upper right graph, that pie graph in the upper right-hand corner, these are our kids who were engaged, right? We hooked them and they stayed. And if you look at that graduation rate, that's 78%. So if we can hook the kid and engage them, they're graduating, and we're on par with the district. It's just a matter of hooking them. This is our early college program. Yeah, sorry, Tanya's going to talk about this one.
So we do have some success that we'd like to showcase in our early college. And I know that there was some questions that surrounded our program here. So with the early college program, just to give you a background, students do enroll, they're full-time. So they take a credit load of 12 college credits, which is a full-time student each term. Typically it is Mount Hood Community College because of our geographic location. However, we do have MOUs with other colleges. We also just enroll students in other colleges closer to their demographic area. So it is not geographically limited to just this area of students. And as you can see on the left-hand side, these are our graduates. So over the last 5 years, you can see our graduation rates for our early college program. We graduate 100% of our students in that program. So students that do enroll, 100% of them will graduate. You can see on the right-hand side, these students who graduate with us, for instance, 21-22, we had 56 graduates, 29 of them earned at least one associate's degree concurrently with their high school diploma. Just personal note, my daughters went through this program last year. They both earned 3 associate degrees at the end of their high school careers. So it is a great program. It's a little bit different than a middle college program, as we have a full-time counselor and assistant that works with these students. So we don't just let them loose on the college campus. We make sure that they are supported. We make sure that their academic careers are being evaluated and make sure that they're on track to graduate. So it's a great program for our students. And you can see also we've got our honors and honors diplomas that students have earned as well in the early college program. So it's a great addition for the district. It's a great addition for the students that are in Oregon, and we're really proud of that accomplishment. We also have several teachers on staff that are able to teach the college credit courses through our school. So they're dual accredited, so they can teach through Mount Hood. They're articulated through Mount Hood to teach some of those classes for our students as well. So that does save us quite a bit of money, because we're able to provide that same education in-house rather than sending them to the college. So we do have quite a bit of students that do take college courses through us as well. In the program. This also opens up that opportunity to all of our students. So it is not limited to the students in the early college program. We do have those opportunities for all high school students to take those college classes through with our teachers, as well as if a student would like to take a college class outside of the program, we do work with the colleges to do that as well. Yeah. Sure.
Sorry, it says associate's degree with an asterisk. What does that mean?
It's the associate degree is a 2-year general studies.
I know what an associate's degree is.
No, I mean, it's a general studies associate degree.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and this is one of our other accountability measures is our ninth grade on track numbers. And our ninth grade on track number is 64% from this past year. And that was an increase from 54% the year before. So we felt pretty good about that. But if you take a look at the numbers on the right, we had 33 ninth graders start with us the first week of school in September. 10 of those were from the Gresham Barlow School District. We ended the year with 26. So we hung on to those 26. 21 of those 26 ended on track. So that was 81% of the kids who stayed with us were on track at the end of the year. On the bottom is where things start to get a little difficult. We took 56 ninth graders throughout the course of the year. 29 of those came to us second semester. And on average, those 29 came to us a full credit behind. So we're working at a deficit. And to catch our freshmen up who are a full credit behind, they would need to take 8 courses second semester and pass them all. And that's a really tall ask or a big ask, right, for freshmen. So this is where our on track rates come from, is we are taking these kids, but that's our mission. So we will continue to do so. And that's why we're here. Addressing grad rates and ninth grade on track. What are we doing to address these things? One of the things we did this past year is we hired a placement coordinator. We realized that we need to figure out what's going to work for these kids. If we're not the solution, what is? And he's half-time, and we're realizing this is a full-time job. So we'll have to see what we can do next year. We have on-track meetings, which is every grade level meets, and that's our advisory teachers, our counselors, our student success team. They meet every other week to talk about how are these kids doing, what can we do differently. We have a multi-tiered systems of support process, which you'll see in a minute. It's a pretty elaborate process, 3 tiers, lots of supports in place, and ways to recommend students for the next level of support. We have a student success team, and those staff members work exclusively to engage our students. They're working one-on-one with the kids. They're orienting the kids, onboarding them, reaching out to families. We have low counselor-student ratios because our kids need it. We have a social worker on staff. We do have a social emotional learning coordinator, and we have cell curriculum. We offer support lab every day, online and in person. And we have a reward system in our support lab. So if kids turn in work, they will get points, and that accrues, and they can cash those in for rewards. And then we are using more equitable grading practices. We're kind of in the middle of this. We have proficiency options. Like the district, we moved away from giving Fs, and we're giving NGs, and we are working towards standards-based grading. That's an ongoing discussion and ongoing work. And one of the questions, excuse me, that Kristen posed was around, your role is to engage the unengaged. How far behind are the different students coming to your school and grade levels? I already talked about ninth grade. 10th grade, they are coming to us about 2.5 credits behind on average. 11th grade, again, about 2.5 credits behind on average, which is a full semester. And then our 12th graders are coming to us a full year behind on average in credits. And if you look at the 2 little notes at the bottom there, these were things that really stood out to us. We had 15 10th graders last year who came to us with no credits. And I don't know where they were. I think their COVID year, they just didn't do school. So we've got some really big gaps, really big holes. We also had 11 12th graders last year who came to us behind in credits, but graduated on time. And 5 of those were from the Gresham Barlow School District.
Kind of tracks with the enrollment.
Right. This is our MTSS flow chart. There's a lot going on here, and you're welcome to ask questions about it. We do have 3 tiers there. We have a whole referral system, and we meet every other week to talk about these kids, and lots of interventions in place, trying to figure out what the solution is to help the students we have. And then we were this year designated as a comprehensive needs school by the federal government. And the focal groups where we were designated a comprehensive needs school are all listed there. They are all our historically underserved students. This is based on Smarter Balance Assessment test scores. And our testing coordinator will speak a little bit more to that in a minute. But our turnout last year was terrible. We had less than 25% of our students test. And there's a number of reasons for that. One is we're an online school. Getting them into test is always hard. And the second thing is it's no longer a graduation requirement. So our students opted out in droves. And so we're not sure what the numbers mean, in all honesty. And it's something we have to dig into a little bit more. Some of the things we have put in place to support these students in particular, we did do empathy interviews last year with our Latino students. We hired an equity coordinator. We are currently looking at our curriculum. We have an evaluation system in place, trying to make sure it's inclusive and appropriate. We are putting in place equitable grading practices. And again, our MTSS supports are in place. We also have a really amazing ELL coordinator, and she does training with our staff regularly. And that also is something we are actively engaged in. And I'm going to turn it over now to our testing coordinator, who's more about the tests.
A little bit.
Thank you. So just to focus a bit on academic achievement, that is definitely one of our priorities here at MIWA. And it includes summative assessment like SBAC and formative assessment for us, which is we use STAR 360 for our testing. Christina did just touch on this a little bit, but before I go into this past year, we are just typically have really been proud of our completion rates in prior years. Typically, we have met the 95% participation requirement, but we have seen, as was mentioned, that in 21-22, we did take a hit on that completion and also performance. Christina mentioned to you, but about less than a quarter of our eligible students chose to participate in testing. And she did mention some of the reasons. I won't go over those again, but we are aware that it leaves some gaps and that we are then unable to really assess academic achievement using this specific measurement tool. So moving forward, our goal is to sort of resume some of our pre-COVID testing practices and make sure that we are working again to reach that 95% completion goal. And we feel pretty confident that we can get back to that place. But independent of that, and because measuring and monitoring academic success is so important to us, we do also have all of our students complete assessments when they come and enroll with us, and then also 3 times a year. So we are getting data from them. We typically have pretty good turnout for that. So usually between 80 to 90% of our students are completing those STAR testing requirements 3 times a year in the subject areas of math and reading / literacy, which leaves us with some really good data to be able to fill in the gaps from Smarter Balance in the previous year, and also make sure that we are using that data to inform our practices and our interventions and things like that. One of the data points that we like to look at sometimes, just for example, is up here on the in these tables here, the GE, which is grade equivalency. Generally speaking, you would, at the end of a school year, hope to see somewhere between an increase of 0.8 to 1, which would typically represent an academic year's worth of learning and growth for a student. And last year, our scores do show that are in reading and in math, students are learning at least an academics year's worth of growth, if not more. So we feel really encouraged by that and are eager to use that data in order to make sure their students are getting the supports that they need. Go to the next one. Yeah, thank you. So monitoring tools to target support. We just talked a little bit about those STAR 360 tests. We use a ton of different tools to make sure that we are identifying students that need additional support. Some of those are the test, the MTSS process that was established here, the RTI process. But we use all of those to make sure that we have feedback loops that we are consistently looking at and tapping into. We make sure that the students are, like I said, testing 3 times a year and at enrollment. Students are also observed by mentors here at MIWA, and the mentors can submit for supports through the MTSS process. We have ELA and math intervention teachers that can also make observations and recommendations and submit to RTI process. We just are constantly looking at those feedback loops and constantly using the data that we have to ensure that we're making some data-informed decisions to support our students. And along that line, the next slide, thank you, Tanya. Our SPED supports, we make sure that those students we have that are identified as SPED are getting the supports that they also need to be successful. And many of the supports are provided school-wide. There's a list of them here, so I won't necessarily read all of them, but things like assistive technology and extra time on assignments. We just make it a priority to make sure that our staff are trained in how to support these students, trained in our SPED department, trained in our RTI process and our 504 process, and that our practices are well informed. And this one, I'm turning over to Julie.
Thank you. To help us continually stay focused, we have a school improvement plan, and I know you're familiar with those. One of the 4 areas that we focused on was math and improving our math achievement. And our goal was to improve this by 15%. And I am incredibly proud of our math department. They have worked so hard. And we actually have an improved rate of 22%, which means that 69% of our math students earned credit. That wasn't happening before. We are achieving that through math intervention teachers. We have very targeted interventions. We have some really interesting curriculum offerings to support students that are fluid in the sense, that's not the right word, but that's the one that's coming to mind right now, but adaptive, that's the word. So a student takes a test, it can identify where their gaps are, and then it is able to adapt the lessons to fill those skill sets so that they can then achieve math literacy, and they're doing it. So I'm very proud of our math teachers. Our CTE program, we currently have 2 formal programs of study. That's what POS stands for. Last year, our graphic design teacher, we resubmitted the application, working both with Liz Mackey here at the district, MESD, and ultimately ODE for that approval, which came. We are evaluating our hospitality and tourism program of study. We also have a health sciences program of study. And we continue to look at options that make sense for our school. Not all CTE options make sense for our program. And we recognize that. Graphic design is a beautiful one because people use CAD and they use all these different software programs. And we now have 2 completers, which is huge when you consider how and when students are coming to us. To get students hooked into a program of study is huge. And they're ready for the workforce. Equity, we spent time really working hard with our equity coordinator and evaluating how can we support our Hispanic and Latino students. And this group last year really dug into this community. They conducted 25 empathy interviews, and that was really a challenge, trying to find, connect with people. And what they found, there wasn't one common theme outside of wraparound services. There's a lot of needs. We have students that are supporting their families and contributing. This particular population group was very hit by the COVID pandemic. And so that drew their attention away from school. When you need to eat and pay rent, you focus on some other things. However, we are very proud of the 7 students that we did have graduate last year, and we're looking forward to having more this year. Our equity group is really looking at addressing literacy. They see that as a real gateway to improving the education of this particular student group. And then engagement. So we looked at improving 9th grade on track by 55% or up to 55% by 2022, and on-time high school graduation rates up to 63%. Well, we knocked the first goal out of the ballpark, and that will eventually feed into the other one. So our 9th grade on track last year was almost 65%, which is 10 percentage points higher than our goal. So that's quite an accomplishment. And our 4-year graduation rate, Christina has talked to that. We are always striving to improve that. And with the students that come to us a little bit behind, we just have to keep knocking on those nuts to crack them and get those kids over that bar. In terms of discipline, this came up as part of within the assurances for the contract. We're very fortunate in that a lot of the classroom discipline issues that a traditional school may has, we don't necessarily have. Our biggest issue is surrounding engagement and keeping the kids on track. We do have an occasional Zoom bomber, and that it doesn't happen frequently. It does happen once in a while. It's not usually our students, and the teachers know session's done for the day. And we utilize a system called BARC, which is an electronic system to monitor assignments through Google, student chats within the school system, where they're searching. So if there are inappropriate behaviors, we receive notifications and we can address that. And it doesn't happen a lot, but it does happen. And we have a computer agreement form families sign, and we give them a little reminder, and that usually addresses that particular challenge. One of the real strengths, I think, of our program is that we are able to accept suspended and expelled students from the traditional school setting, whether it's from GBSD or a neighboring school. We had some kids recently enrolled that have PO officers. They're not allowed on a traditional campus, but they can access their education through our online platform. And that's a real strength. And we're happy to be able to offer that to them. And I'm going to pass this on to Natalie, our curriculum director. I don't know if I should turn it off or not.
That's okay. We'll figure it out. I'm just going to touch on a few things somewhat quickly here. So just to give assurances here, our curriculum meets state standards, follows Common Core curriculum. We do have some customized curriculum that we utilize that some of our highly classified staff members create, and it goes through a rigorous review process to make sure that it also follows those standards. Next slide. Now I'm just going to talk about some of the things we're proud of. As you can see, there are a lot of things we're proud of. We work very hard and we're very proud of our staff members. And so we like to talk about that, but I'm just going to touch on some of them and let you read the other ones. Some of the things we are especially proud of are wraparound services that we provide, including utilizing our counselors and social worker. We have social and emotional learning initiatives for both students and staff. Our student success team, which Christina touched on earlier, is really a cornerstone of our process at our school. They do everything they possibly can to help these students be successful. Then we have supporting GBSD. So our one-off classes sometimes that students take with us are setting for expelled students, and also our online elementary program, which I'm quite fond of because I'm in charge of it. Our licensure, we have a little bit of information there. So our highly qualified social worker, administrators, counselors, you can also see our teachers and their certifications below. And one thing that got skipped over on the last slide, which is fine, our support labs. We're very proud of those as well, that we offer daily in-person and virtual support labs where students can get help from teachers and staff on whatever they need to work on. And then I'll probably just lastly say that we consistently hear from students and parents that we're a welcoming environment where students feel safe and like they belong. Assurance is just that we comply with ODE reporting requirements as well as insurance requirements and all federal and state laws. We also do an annual financial audit. And I believe that's my end.
And just a little bit about our financial outlook. It's my favorite part. So our cash on hand was equal to just over 5.3 million. And this doesn't include about $500,000 to $600,000 for capital assurances that are outlined under our bond covenants. And with that loan agreement for our bond, we are required to keep 60 days cash on hand, which is the equivalent of about 1.2 million. Which brings our debt service coverage ratio to just over 5.4. So we have a very healthy fund balance. We have 259 days cash on hand. This is for this last school year, which is comparison to 2020, 2021 that had 192 days cash on hand. So we have a pretty significant fund balance, which we are holding on to right now just because of the uncertainty of what's happening. Recession, usually with a recession, there is a little bit of delay on how that can affect school districts. So although we have the means to start looking at potentially paying down that debt service, we're going to continue to hold on to it just to see how things look in the next few years to make sure that we can try to keep as many staff members that we can, so we don't have to go into layoffs or make any big financial decisions, because we have that little cushion that not only do we have the cushion to cover that, it wouldn't then impede our covenants with our investment bonds.
And I think that's pretty much it. This isn't something I know that we would discuss at this point. This is sort of some of the finer details of our charter, but we wanted you to have it. These are some things that we would want to bring forth when we have that conversation. And then the final slide is just, we're proud of what we do. This is a student at graduation on Barlow's football field, and she's celebrating, and we celebrate with her. We're really proud of what we do and whom we serve, and it's hard work, but it's also fulfilling. Thank you very much. And I think we went over our 15 minutes.
Good evening. It was a great presentation. Thank you. And the questions, a lot of them you answered through your presentation. One sort of, if it's an indelicate question, but I'll ask it. Is there ever a time when you would say, this just isn't going to work, and have a student just say, you're so far behind, it's just, you can't come as a junior with no credits and expect to get somewhere? I mean, do you ever reach that point, or how far do you go to try and get them something? Because we want our students to get some success somewhere.
Right. And that's a very fair question. If a student comes to us very behind, we don't have that conversation if they're engaged. If they're not engaging, we absolutely have that conversation. Julie just made a phone call today to a family. It's like, everything we've tried, right? It's just not working. And you need to get an education. And if that means you go back to brick and mortar, that's what it means. And we have some other options. We have this conversation all the time, but we are a free public school and it's a choice school. So, I mean, kids can choose to come.
I have a question. You mentioned that the different interventions for ninth grade to get your ninth graders on track. Are there summer options? Is there summer programming?
Yeah, absolutely. We do offer summer school. And that has been a good benefit, especially for our eighth graders. We've really encouraged our eighth graders to take a bridge class and start getting those high school credits even before they're in high school so that we can remediate some of this ninth graders who end up behind.
You mentioned that the kids are observed by mentors. Who are the mentors?
Yeah, so almost all of our teaching staff also act as mentors. It's kind of like an advisory class. So they have 20, 25 kids, and these are kids that they are constantly watching and then reaching out to other teachers on behalf of, that sort of thing. Yeah.
The non-completers, which was a large group and obviously a group that you're always working with. Do you have ideas about why they're non-completers? You mentioned that there's placement coordinators that are always working with them. Is there a common thing that keeps them from completing?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know if there's a common theme, but a lot of times what we'll see is they've been to every school in the district. Like we'll look at their transcript. They've been to Barlow, they've been to Gresham High School, they've been to Springwater Trail, and now they're trying us and nothing's sticking. So sometimes we'll see that. You can say something.
Yeah, I would just say the lack of engagement. So the non-completers that come to us typically haven't engaged well in other settings either. So it's an option for them to try, and it's not always successful. Yeah.
I did notice as we were going through the slides, some of them were a little bit different from the pack that was given to Sarah. So could we make sure we get whatever the latest, because there was some more information on yours, and just make sure for the record that we have the most updated one.
Absolutely.
Mine isn't a question, it's more of an observation. And I'm, fairly new to the board, but the thing that is always striking to me is that we hold you to the same account as Gresham or all of our schools in terms of graduation rates, which we should, but you're dealing with a different deck. And I just want to acknowledge that, because all of the things that I'm reading about the welcoming environment and the mentoring, you are set up to be more one-on-one with students. Students don't fall through the cracks that you do see sometimes in bigger schools. And there's no fault in that. It's just a numbers game. Mm-hmm. So I just want to acknowledge the work that you're doing, and that the percent of the non-completers, I just am glad that we have a last place for them to at least try, because if they aren't successful, it's not through a lack of trying. So I just want to acknowledge your effort.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, thank you for your presentation tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.